of our goals. And so no matter what happens with the election, we're eager to form partnerships with other people who care about RISD to make it more equitable. So yeah, we're just excited to make connections, and what we're going to do is put this out there for everybody else. And we're not going to come out for one candidate or another, but we're excited to move forward together with you guys. So Mr. Eric Stengel, is that how I say your last name?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, before you start, let me just throw out a little disclaimer out there. Larry's already touched bases on it. So Lamar is a Texas nonprofit and does not endorse candidates, but has offered all candidates an opportunity to answer questions. Everyone was asked the same questions related to work to eliminate racism and racial bias in RISD.
Yeah, so Eric, we would love for you to just tell us about yourself and why you're running, and your family and your background.
Well, when I graduated from college, I thought, what could I do to give back? So I went back to college and went through University of Texas at Dallas teacher certification program, and I earned a teaching certification. So then I did that for a little bit, and yeah, I mean, you know, teaching is no walk in the park. It's difficult. You don't control the outcomes because you're basically, you know, an equity issue, a bureaucratic issue, a funding issue. I mean, there's so many issues that, you know, can easily burn out a teacher within the first 5 years. And after a couple of years of substitute teaching and then about 1.25 years of service, I basically thought, you know, I can make more money going to work at a business and probably not work as hard doing something else. So eventually I found myself in the medical industry, basically as a credentialing compliance person. And, you know, I've been doing that a number of years, and I've thought to myself, how can I give back? And I've always wanted to run for some sort of office, but I wanted to run for one that made the most difference and the most sense. And after the protests on our nation's capital, I thought to myself, that's what we have in this nation, is an education problem, you know, where we have a lack of informed citizens that are willing to work together and to come across the aisle. And I thought, you know, it all starts in our communities. And, you know, if I can be one of many voices of reason and sanity and looking to make a difference, then, you know, why not? So, and I have, if I win or not win, I don't really care, as long as I get some sort of a positive message out.
That's awesome. So that's so interesting that that's kind of what compelled you. What is the positive message that you're wanting to get out?
Well, one of the first campaign blurbs that I did on my Facebook video was I thought, who embodies the educational experience more than anyone else that was able to reach across different communities and had the most simple, profound message? And I thought, Mr. Rogers.
Oh.
So not that I am a Mr. Rogers, but I mean, I'm like, you know.
Yeah, you know, Mr. Stengel.
His messages were so simple, so down to earth, and he didn't care who you were or what disabilities you had or, you know, where you came from. He was just so genuinely interested in who you were as a person. And I thought, you know, what better way to bring some positive message back to our communities?
He's one of my heroes for sure. Tell us more about your family and your kids. Where do they go to school?
Well, my daughter attends Jess Harvin Elementary, and we live in the Glenville Park area. And I'm a product of Richardson ISD school system. I went to Dartmouth, Apollo, and Berkner. My wife is from up north. She attended Plano ISD schools. And so we're both products of the public school system. And, you know.
Danita has kids at Berkner. And yeah, she's the PTA president there. So now, what grade is your daughter in?
She's in first grade.
Oh, so she's just starting. Has she been going to school?
Yeah, she's been going to school in person. I thought to myself, well, you know, mask up, lots of sanitizer. Seems like the school district is doing pretty good on that front of trying to keep kids as safe as possible. So
Yeah, well, I hope she's having a great year.
she is. She really loves it. So
It's been a challenging year for sure, but she's off to a good start, I'm sure. Ms. Danita, do you want to start with a question?
Yes, Eric, I'll start with this question here. What is your view on the importance of the Richardson ISD Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, or EDI department, and of the work of the RISD Racial Equity Committee has undertaken this year?
sure, that's a very good question. Definitely our roadmap to success, you know, is paramount for that organization, and they're doing some great work. I think probably one of the best things that needs to occur with that newer department, I mean, you know, it's not, a lot of people don't really know about it, or they haven't read the 2017 basically strategic plan, or, you know, they may not even know this department exists. And so, I mean, unless you're highly involved in the school district and you go to the board meetings or you go online and you read the things, I don't know if the majority of stakeholders know anything about it, which, you know, I'm just hoping they will after this election, and after your group brings everything to the forefront. So I mean,
Yeah, I would agree with that. We want
the
people to
district
know.
has some lofty goals as far as professional development training for, you know, the educators and the staff, and for the academic achievement, and trying to bring equity across the spectrum in different schools. So, but, you know, how many people go and look at these documents and click on each department name, or unless you see it in a little clip of a news release from your school campus, you know,
Yeah.
I think it needs to be more widely known.
So if you were elected, how would you prioritize the work of the equity? And like you said, not everyone knows what it is. So the EDI department is the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion department, and work in RISD.
Well, I don't know if you watched the last school board meeting with the bond proposal, but like the career technology and education teachers got up there, and you know, they were a presence. So I would definitely make sure that maybe the staff has an active presence, maybe like a video message or something, you know, advertising spot, or a brochure or something with each campus saying, this is who we are, this is what we do. And if parents of students or anyone in the community has a concern, here's our mission. And actually, you know, here's a full-fledged release of this is what our department does. And, you know, let's see, Angie Lee and Jeremy Jewett, Desiree Cantu, yeah, they're the people behind that department. I mean, I can't speak to them. The school board trustee, basically they ask the superintendent to make things happen, or, you know, they consult with her and the superintendent consults with the staff. So
Yeah. Danita, do you have another one?
Yes, I'm gonna put it in the chat because it is a lengthy one, so that you can chime along and see what aspects of the question you didn't answer. So what approaches would you like to see RISD pursue in addressing any racial disparities identified in special education placement, student discipline, home internet access, placement in pre-AP and AP courses, retention in secondary GT services, and preparation for four-year colleges?
Yeah, so she'll put it in there. That's a list for you of gaps we're identifying.
Okay.
Yeah, you can pick whichever one you want to start with. What would you like to see them do?
Special education. Well, our special education department, I mean, they're pretty good. They're pretty good, but definitely the passage of the bond. I mean, I'm hoping that the money gets there sooner rather than later. Let's just say that much, because it takes a lot for school counselors for reasonable accommodations under Section 504, and then of course you have Title IX, in the sports and different things, and then you have your ARD meetings and your IEPs and things of that nature, making sure that learning different students are on par with their counterparts. So, and that's a big concern of equitable education that we seriously need to look at, and definitely support our valuable special education teachers and the paraprofessionals, because all you have to do is pick up the newspaper and see where one district may not be getting it right in that regard, and that's unfortunate. And then the racial disparities, well, thank goodness for the Texas Education Agency. I never thought I'd hear myself say that when I first got my teaching certification, because at first I thought, oh, the bureaucratic Texas TEA, and how can someone from Austin dictate what we're doing at a local ISD level? Well, they've got some great data, so there's nothing like the TEA snapshot in the grading, and where each student stands, which is good data to have. I mean, I hope that we can maybe make it to where each district has a little bit more power in that regard from a state governance issue, but we just have to see what happens. So racial disparities, I mean, it's obvious that white students, Caucasian students, I mean, it's not the predominant race in Richardson ISD. Our once little suburban district where it was predominantly white is not that way anymore. I mean, now it's mostly Hispanic, African-American, Indian, 2 or more races. Economically disadvantaged is a real concern. Plano ISD, our neighbor to the north, they have a real problem with homeless populations, and as do we. We have that, we have a center that addresses that. So, these are all real concerns in equity that the district and the staff should be addressing. And I'm hoping that any influx of money can help these different departments.
Yeah, do you have anything else you want to say about the bond?
Well, there's a little bit of skepticism in that regard. I understand that Lake Highlands schools are overcrowded and they need to expand. Personally, I mean, it is going to be up to the voters. Let's just say that much. It's going to be up to the voters and how they decide to vote. Personally, I'd rather it go to the schools that, like the A schools first, the schools that have the most economically disadvantaged first. I want to see an influx of money come there to the ones that need it. Hamilton Park, Adelia Creek, Thurgood Marshall, some of those campuses.
That kind of leads into the next question, Danita,
let's see. I don't think I answered all of it. Student discipline, home internet access. Yeah, it's unfortunate when a kid has to use a hotspot at the local McDonald's or somewhere else, or Starbucks, and they have to sit outside because they're like, oh, I don't have any money to go buy an expensive cup of coffee or whatever. So, and my mom or whoever is at the household, she's working, she can't afford an internet bill. And yeah, sure, the district gave us some hotspots to use for our neighborhood, but they don't work because, there's an infrastructure problem and everybody's on Zoom, and Zoom's crashing. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that we're in the 21st century and it's 2021 and we haven't gotten the technology right. I mean, I was thinking, you know, as a kid growing up, the Jetsons, I figured someone would be doing my shaving for me other than me. And that hasn't happened yet. So, you know, that's a problem with education. And then real quick, the student discipline and placement in pre-AP, AP. Dallas community colleges rock. We need to rely on them. It's an affordable education. We pay county tax dollars for them. We need to make good resource of them. And then pre-AP, AP courses, we should have it as a goal that every student that thinks they want to go to college can go to college. And if they aren't meant for college, we need to make sure that we're addressing career readiness as soon as they graduate from high school, that they're able to work and get a good job.
And you said you went to UTD, right?
I did, yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, here's another one. I think you already mentioned the ACE campuses. And Danita, you can help me put this in the chat. Do you support RISD's recent progress in the areas of pre-K programs, ACE campuses, improvements in GT identification, and other steps taken to help close the achievement gaps? And do you want to support the continuing efforts of those?
Yeah, I do want to support all those efforts. ACE, only if the data shows that they're working, okay? Because I'm not just going to be a yes person on the board. If I look at the data and I see that it's just a money train, but the data isn't there and no one's benefiting and I hear otherwise, I'm going to cut it off. That's how I would vote, okay? But yeah, I support all of those as a general rule of thumb, especially the pre-K. Now, some people may say pre-K is just a babysitting entity and a way for, you know, parents not to have control of their child. Yeah, I say that's not true. I mean, all you have to do is look at the data. Pre-K is important. It helps kids become ready for kindergarten. And, you know, not all parents have the skills and the ability needed to teach their kids and prepare them. You know, studies show that early reading skills are important for, you know, strong readers later on. And, you know, how is a parent going to do that if it's a single parent household and they're busy working all the time where they can't afford books? So that's why we need the pre-K. That's why we need a good, gifted, talented identification program. Even though Ben Carson worked for the Trump administration, I mean, his story is so profound that he grew up in a poor neighborhood and his mother convinced him to become somebody. I mean, just the story of that guy and how he became a brain surgeon is phenomenal. And there's all kinds of stories like that kids need to hear. And most importantly, you know, the district and the people that are running the district need to hear so we can identify those gifted and talented students, even if they come from a background we may not consider as necessarily worthy.
Yeah. So let's see, Danita, the next question is, how important do you believe it is to implement culturally responsive teaching approaches, instructional materials, and professional development for teachers in all grades? So we're talking about the instruction in the classroom and training of the teachers to be culturally responsive.
I'm sure one of the candidates running, Amanda Claire, should probably talk more about this because she represents the alternative teaching certification people. But basically, some of these alt-cert programs that allow Ivy League graduates, and oftentimes Ivy League graduates that are the same race of the students, they allow them to come into the schools and transform those schools. So I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of doing anything necessary to help build the diversity and recruitment of teachers and personnel so that students can see someone that looks like them in their classroom. I mean, that's important. When I taught school, they often look at me like a father figure, which at the elementary level, I was outnumbered. There weren't a lot of male elementary teachers, and that respect that I had and that humility that I had was just so profound when I was in the classroom that, students need that. They need to see those role models in the classroom because they respond better. I mean, that's just who we are as human beings. We respond better to those things that we see and we know.
What grade did you teach, Mr. Stengel?
Well, I taught 5th grade, and then I taught for a few months at a charter school that's now closed. Unfortunately, it wasn't one of the good run charter schools. I taught 3rd through 8th grade, social studies and computers. And I had the privilege of working a summer school at the Henry Wade Juvenile Justice System for Dallas County, teaching career development and life skills. And I substitute taught for 3 years. And then I went into the business sector. And then after about 10 months of basically a temp job, I went back into teaching. And then unfortunately, I worked for another charter school that's now closed. And I was there for a month, but they had a shower curtain for a stall door where the teachers and the students had to use the same thing. And I didn't get a lunch break, but
oh my goodness.
And the principal hired me on the spot the day of, and they're now closed. They're defunct. So, but I'm not complaining. It was just, I mean, I was probably not into the schools that were the right atmosphere. And then that first one was a parochial school where I had to call Child Protective Services on this student's mom, where they didn't do anything because the student's mom was a drinker and basically he didn't show up to some of the classes. So I tried to do something about it. So I just kind of lost my passion, fortunately, but I've always had a passion for it. So, I've always helped out in youth ministry with my church and things like that. So.
Well, I'm glad it didn't scare you away from trying to help. Thank you for putting in the effort. Danita has another question.
So, Mr. Stengel, the next question is, do you support direct efforts to address and prevent future incidents of racist and or racially insensitive behavior in Richardson ISD? What is your perspective on the role of anti-racist work and discussion about implicit bias in public education? So it's a 2-part question, and I am going to drop it in the chat now for you to refer back to.
Yeah, so the first part is just addressing, should the district be addressing racist incidents that happen in the classroom or in the district, and behavior?
Yeah, definitely. I think we need to address that at the forefront. We need to be bold. We need to be outspoken. There needs to be a process, though, a systematic process to where we make sure that any educator or paraprofessional has a grievance process and that, it's just not some people crying a foul. So there needs to be that. We need to be fair in that regard, but we also need to be bold and outspoken. We need to make sure that we identify any anti-racist remarks or things that happen on the school campus, even bullying, which is a real big issue, cyberbullying. We need to make sure that we address those issues and we talk about it, and do it in such a forum that is fair and just and addresses the issue and stops it.
Mm-hmm.
It stops it right away, not later, but right away. And then implicit bias in public education. There's implicit bias in not only public education, but business and everything. I mean, we all have biases. It's snowing outside. I don't like the cold weather. I have a bias against cold weather, being a native Texan. So we all have biases, and we need to address those implicit biases in our professional development education trainings. We need to make sure that teachers are reading those books that they may not necessarily have considered reading before in our trainings, and we need to just continue that efforts. So, and you know, when we can remove bias in our job and in our community, then we can have a better community.
Well, that's what we're about, is just helping educate people about that.
And I don't know who said it, but let change start with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let you be the change maker, the difference maker. And, you know, it's oftentimes it involves looking in the mirror and doing a little bit of introspective, you know.
Yeah.
You know, who am I today? Where am I going to? How am I going to make the world a better place? And, you know, that's a hard thing for us human beings to master, but it's something that's needed.
Yeah. And we're appreciative of anyone taking the time to engage in this work and just noticing and acknowledging the inequities and trying to help us figure it out. So thank you for doing that. Danita, I think did we get all the questions?
Yeah, that's all the questions with the exception of the, yeah, that was it.
I
That's
think
all the questions.
Yeah, so we thank you so much for your time on this cold afternoon.
Sure.
Oh,
Thank
wait.
you for doing this and reaching out to all.
Oh yeah, Danita has her favorite question.
So I ask this of all our guests, whether it's a Zoom webinar, candidate discussion, you have a magic wand and you can change anything with that magic wand in this instant. What would you change within RISD?
Now that's a tough one. So just one thing.
Yeah, that's a big question.
The turnover rate of our teachers and educators. How do you get staff to stay for a few $1,000s less and to build that district that people want to be, where they want to be and they want to stay and they want to work in because they got into education to make a difference? That's a magic wand. I want to look at how can we keep the good teachers and the good staff on, even if they make less. How can we build that culture of excellence?
Are you saying so they make less in RISD than in other districts?
Yeah. How do we keep them from going to another district making a few thousand more? I mean, it's the same job, but how do we keep them here? Because we've got that special something in Richardson ISD that other districts don't have. That's my magic wand.
That's, you know, we're learning so much just from Danita. I love knowing these answers about the magic wand. Like, it's stuff that I think in the end we should take to the district and say, here are the things that people want to do with the magic wand. And then Danita and I will go searching for that wand so we can make it happen.
Great.
Eric, we invite you to follow our group and get engaged with us, and we'll be in touch with you soon. And we hope you stay warm with your family this evening.
Okay. Thank you
for visiting with us. Nice to meet you.
You too. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.